This is the biggest takedown he's ever witnessed, and everyone needs to pay attention. Some of the arrest details are downright chilling. Court records read like a crime epic. The suspects taken into custody. The FBI is still processing evidence, yet agents say they've already seized large quantities of narcotics and dozens of firearms. Los Angeles is roiling from inside. What began as a long-standing criminal collaboration has blown up into open warfare on American soil. Federal sources labeled this the largest organized crime confrontation in recent memory. A brutal conflict between mafia bosses and cartel empires, vying over a drug network valued at more than $10 billion. For decades, the Italian-American mob and Mexican cartels worked together, quietly running cocaine, heroin, and meth lines from border towns to Wall Street. But in 2025, that pact collapsed. Business deals turned into bloodshed. Law enforcement insiders now describe Los Angeles as the epicenter, the pulsing core of America's shadow economy. Investigators insist this is no longer a city merely fighting crime. It's become a battlefield hidden inside a metropolis fueled by drugs, cash, and absolute control. Federal prosecutors confirm Los Angeles now ranks as the nation's top hub for cartel activity, the primary center for narcotics distribution, money laundering, and organized coordination. Agents portray it as a shadow economy that rivals corporate America in scale and sophistication. Before we go on, hit like and subscribe, because what's unraveling beneath Los Angeles could change the future of America's fight against organized crime. Federal teams conducting arrests and seizing evidence are operating as part of a sweeping probe into Armenian organized crime networks. Over a 5-hour period, joint task forces from the FBI, Homeland Security, and LAPD executed coordinated raids across Southern California. Targets included cartel warehouses, stash houses, and financial fronts in the Fashion District, East LA, and Long Beach. In a single day, more than 3,000 suspects were taken into custody. What agents found next stunned even veteran investigators. Encrypted files revealed payment ledgers, tying the cartel to a shadowy group known as the RSP Enterprise, remnants of the Italian Mafia's Los Angeles network. For 50 years, they shared profits, protection, and deep-rooted connections. But those records exposed betrayal. One faction had begun cutting the other out of billion-dollar cocaine shipments. By early October, that betrayal erupted into violence. Surveillance near the port of Los Angeles captured armed men firing in broad daylight. Automatic weapons, armored SUVs, military-style tactics. Authorities believed the shooters were Italian-linked enforcers retaliating over unpaid cartel debt. That footage became the first confirmed example of inter-cartel warfare playing out on U.S. streets. The threat spread faster than officials expected. The city's ports became central to the conflict. Every day, thousands of containers arrived from Asia, and within that flow, traffickers concealed tons of narcotics beneath legitimate cargo. The Port of Los Angeles and the neighboring Port of Long Beach now act as twin arteries in cartel logistics. Even LAX, processing millions of passengers and shipments, has been pulled into the smuggling scheme. Officials admit it's impossible to inspect everything passing through. The Sinaloa cartel still controls many import routes, but splinter groups linked to the Jalisco New Generation cartel and the Mexican Mafia are fighting for street-level control. That internal war has left a trail of corpses and terror from San Pedro to Pasadena. This is not just a Los Angeles problem. It could hit any American city. Federal intelligence estimates Los Angeles distributes narcotics to more than 200 U.S. cities, meaning suburbs, school districts, and small-town police across the nation are downstream from the chaos consuming. California, local gangs such as 18th Street and the Avenues act as shock troops, enforcing orders, collecting cash, and intimidating rivals. Their loyalties shift with whoever pays the most. The fragile equilibrium between gangs and cartel bosses has shattered, turning neighborhoods into contested zones, and the danger only grew. The raids expose an entire financial empire underpinning the violence. Shell corporations, cryptocurrency accounts, and Chinese-run exchange services moving billions through fraudulent import invoices. Investigators say the alliance between cartel financiers and Chinese money laundering operations has quietly turned illicit proceeds into clean assets, homes, cars, and businesses scattered across Los Angeles County. Officials warn that the current war isn't solely about drugs. It's a battle for control of an underground economy powerful enough to destabilize entire cities. This battlefield is no longer across the border, it's inside the United States. The deeper agents dug into the Los Angeles probe, the clearer the pattern became. This wasn't one cartel operating alone. It was a hybrid criminal network merging old-world mafia infrastructure with modern cartel logistics. Federal task forces describe it as corporate-level crime, organized like a global enterprise with regional offices, payrolls, and digital accountants. Intelligence from seized laptops showed Mexican Mafia and Sinaloa cartel operations run with military precision, routes mapped through ports, highways, and commercial air cargo, encrypted ledgers tracking profits down to the penny. At the top, obscured under financial layers, were Italian intermediaries who once acted as silent partners, providing money laundering know-how, corrupt banking contacts, and front businesses that made billions appear legitimate. Federal analysts estimate the combined Los Angeles network oversaw nearly $10 billion in narcotics trade, a figure corroborated by asset seizures, suspicious activity reports, and intercepted transactions. Beyond the money, investigators uncovered the evolution of organized crime itself. What surfaced stunned the task force. Operation Iron Veil, the probe's code name, showed cartel logistics flowing through legitimate infrastructure at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And Thulax freight containers carrying routine imports were retrofitted with false compartments. Synthetic drugs and cash moved inside the same shipping channels used by Fortune 500 companies. One Homeland Security report described the setup as a city within a city, complete with its own banking, insurance, and real estate frameworks. The Fashion District, once a corridor of small business commerce, became a money laundering hub. Storefronts masking cash counting rooms, encrypted ledgers, and couriers moving duffel bags of drug proceeds. Traffickers adapted a decades-old black market peso exchange method, upgraded now with cryptocurrency. Drug funds converted into digital currency, handed to Chinese brokers, then returned as payments for imports. By the time the money flowed back to Mexico, it looked like legitimate trade revenue. Investigators traced more than $50 million in verified transfers in a single 12-month span. Cartels have recognized they no longer need to stash cash in remote warehouses or bury it in deserts. The modern drug war is fought on servers, not just streets with laptops, not paper ledgers, algorithms, not accountants. With each arrest, the networks reroute digitally faster than agencies can react. Inside Los Angeles, this financial sophistication exacts a human toll that can't be measured. Whole communities depend on the underground economy, trucking firms, warehouse staff, import brokers, even retail managers. Some participants know, many don't, but all operate inside a system that converts death into profit, and the replication is alarming. The same networks identified in Los Angeles are surfacing in Chicago, Atlanta, and New York. Mirror operations that can rebuild in weeks if a hub is disrupted. That's why federal authorities view the Los Angeles case not just as a raid, but as a test of national security. Meanwhile, the alliance between Mexican cartels and Italian crime families is fracturing. Former cooperation has turned to open hostility. Italian syndicates trying to reclaim lost assets, while cartel commanders respond with threats and targeted killings. What began as a partnership of convenience has become a war for survival. The stakes only rise. Homeland Security calls Los Angeles ground zero for organized crime's digital revolution, combining old mafia cash flows, cartel violence, and foreign laundering. Expertise produced something new, and every day it becomes more adaptive and harder to trace. Officials warn that the next phase will decide whether the U.S. can retain control over its cities, or whether international cartels have already gained the upper hand. The war that started in Los Angeles is no longer confined to California. It's metastasizing across the nation. A silent invasion moves not by armies, but via shipments, cash flows, and encrypted orders. Federal investigators say this is modern warfare. No uniforms, no traditional front lines. Instead, pipelines of power running beneath everyday life. In Washington, intelligence briefings now classify Los Angeles as a Tier 1 threat zone, the same category once reserved for international terrorism. Officials caution that the Mafia cartel collapse has created a vacuum, now being filled by chaos. Street-level enforcers once bound by loyalty codes, now operating as freelance killers, working for whoever pays in crypto rather than cash. By late 2025, Homeland Security analysts linked Los Angeles gangs to foreign suppliers, funneling precursor chemicals from China and Southeast Asia through Mexico. Investigators were shocked to discover shared distribution methods, narcotics, weapons, and human trafficking all moving along the same transport networks. Surveillance of encrypted communications intercepted a codenamed operation referred to as the boardroom. It wasn't a meeting so much as a directive. Dozens of cartel lieutenants and mafia brokers coordinating financial strikes against one another, leaking intelligence to federal contacts to cripple competitors. Los Angeles had ceased to be merely a battlefield. It had become a corporate war zone. As factions turned on each other, everyday neighborhoods became collateral damage. Shootouts erupted in Boyle Heights, Southgate, and Hawthorne. Businesses burned to erase evidence. Informants vanished. Forensic teams recovered. Phones wiped remotely, proving that digital coordination of hits had become standard practice. The threat kept escalating. Fentanyl overdoses surged during the months of cartel clashes, a sign that rival groups were flooding markets, deliberately to destabilize competitors. Officials call this narco-saturation, a tactic intended to create panic, overwhelm health systems, and exhaust law enforcement. This isn't just a big city problem. It could hit any American community. National drug intelligence estimates up to 200 tons of narcotics pass through Los Angeles each year, enough to supply cities across the United States for months. And while law enforcement seizes shipments, demand persists. For every load confiscated, multiples still get through. Federal cyber units uncovered another chilling development. Fragments of cartel communication software built with AI-driven encryption that can rewrite access keys in real time, causing messages to vanish seconds after transmission. One investigator called it the end of evidence. Homeland Security now describes these networks as post-detection entities. They don't merely hide. They adapt faster than the agencies chasing them. Within Los Angeles, criminal finances have become indistinguishable from legal commerce. Chinese currency exchanges, Delaware shell companies, luxury car dealerships, and crypto wallets linked together into a circuit that cleans proceeds of violence through complex tax and corporate structures. While Los Angeles remains the epicenter, similar architectures are emerging in Houston, Chicago, and Miami, systems quietly testing law enforcement's response times and media attention before expanding. The D warns that if these mirror nodes synchronize, the U.S. could face a level of criminal integration never seen before. What investigators fear most isn't another ambush or seizure. It's silence. The moment the system grows, so vast it no longer needs to hide. And according to intelligence briefings, that moment may already be beginning. The battle for Los Angeles has reached a breaking point. Federal officials say the latest phase has moved from containment to confrontation. Cartel networks, mafia remnants, and foreign money brokers are being targeted simultaneously in what the Department of Justice calls America's largest purge of organized crime in history. More than 3,000 arrests, hundreds of indictments, and billions seized are only the start. But behind the headlines, the warning is stark. When a criminal empire collapses, pieces of it reemerge under new names, different shell companies, and other front groups. Federal analysts compare it to a hydra. Cut off a head, and two more appear. The fight has become perpetual, invisible, and increasingly digital. Homeland Security's post-operation report calls Los Angeles a living laboratory for transnational crime. Its geography, proximity to Mexico, the world's busiest port complex, and a financial system based on global trade makes it ideal for criminal rebirth. Even as raids continued into October, analysts spotted new data streams tied to previously frozen accounts. Somewhere offshore, the system had rebooted. The threat was expanding faster than information could track. Federal investigators say the next battlefield is cyberspace. Cartel coders and criminal hackers are rewriting the rules of organized crime, converting drug proceeds into cryptocurrency in seconds and making recovery nearly impossible. The same technology that powers the global economy is now empowering the underworld. Meanwhile, agents on the ground labor to dismantle what remains of Los Angeles's physical empire. Money laundering shops in the fashion district closed. East LA leaders facing RICO indictments, and AI cargo scanners deployed across port operations. Each victory matters, but each success reveals how large and resilient the enemy still is. Investigators now believe Los Angeles may have been the first domino. Hubs in Texas, Illinois, and Florida show identical laundering blueprints. Chinese brokers, crypto exchanges, and shell corporations masking illicit profits. The architecture of global crime has gone viral, replicating across systems that make international trade possible. In response, the FBI and Homeland Security have launched Task Force Sentinel, a broad program to identify and dismantle the financial arteries of organized crime before they regenerate. Federal officials warn this will be a long campaign, measured not in months, but in generations. Despite the progress, the cost is immense. The United States has spent more than $1 trillion on the war on drugs since the 1970s, yet overdose deaths remain in the tens of thousands annually. Cartels continue to outpace policy and enforcement. Even with Los Angeles under siege, the threat keeps morphing. Still, in Washington, there is new resolve. Cooperation among U.S. agencies and international partners is the strongest it has ever been. Cuba, Mexico, and several European governments are sharing real-time intelligence, creating what one official called a global firewall against organized crime. The mission has shifted, not merely to contain cartels, but to dismantle them. The fight now blurs the lines between law enforcement and warfare. Drones patrol coasts, AI sifts data in milliseconds, and financial investigators pursue digital currency as contraband. The old rules are gone. This is a new battlefield that exists in shadows, on servers, and across oceans. If this report opened your eyes, like and subscribe for real-time updates on America's battle against cartels, corruption, and global crime. Share it with someone who needs to see how deep this threat runs. The city that once symbolized fame and freedom is now on the front line of a hidden war. For the first time in decades, America is striking back, and this time, the world is watching.